So, Matt, you've got such a unique performance style. How would you describe it to someone who has yet to hear your concerts?
I would describe it as a pure fusion hybrid between classical approach and musicianship and jazz sensibility, harmonies and rhythms. It's a fusion of both worlds where nothing is left out of either. We can go all the way back to George Gershwin, but more recently, Keith Jarrett was sort of doing something like that. This was the first jazz pianist that really had a classical approach to the piano and had all the nuances of a classical pianist that a lot of jazz pianists just didn't really have before. And no surprise, Keith Jarrett was a hero of mine growing up. But it gave me the confidence to not shy away from keeping my classical technique and way of approaching the piano, to not ditch that in my jazz playing, which I did for a while. They were sort of on two different tracks, and then as I got more back, I left classical to do jazz. So as I got further from classical, that got further away as well. But then I was dragged back into classical by a violinist, Laura St. John. We did concerts, starting out jazz, folk jazz stuff, and then presenters wanted us to play classical pieces, so we did that, and I had to learn Franck Sonata and Kreutzer and things like that, and Ravel and all this. So that brought back my classical chops, and that started becoming just naturally integrated into my jazz playing. That plus some projects that were proposed to me, namely two projects of Bach, both Philip Quint, violinist, and Andrea Griminelli, flutist, asked me to do albums of jazz arrangements of Bach pieces. And I got really into that, and they really are integrated arrangements involving arrangement, composition, and employing all kinds of different styles. And so the one with Philip Quint, Bach 21, is a little more on the classical side of the ledger, and the one with Andrea Griminelli is a little more on the jazz side of the ledger. But they're both doing similar things in different ways. And that kind of led me to my own, what I'm doing now is like a true integration, musically, of classical and jazz.